question, which is I believe where we cut off. So as I said, here's the format for education. Rochester Institute of Technology. You probably want that to be bolded or underlined. And then below that, you'll have your degree and the year you will be graduating. That's very important because it kind of shows how qualified you are. And when it comes to internships, especially, employers are looking to hire you full time. An internship is just a very long interview. So they're going to want to know that right after you do the internship, they can hire you full time, which means your graduation year should be as close to the internship as possible, which is why you hear a lot of companies only hiring juniors and seniors. You'll then put your minor or whatever the heck else you do. And then your GPA. Even if it's bad, I recommend putting your GPA. Recruiters will question why you didn't. And even if it is bad, it shouldn't matter unless you're going to some type of government work. But they don't really care. It's just kind of putting your best foot forward in terms of honesty. And then your certifications can also go in your education section, but you're welcome to put them in your skill set too. All right, skills. Put them in order of what you know the most. So if you're going to put up a programming language section, you should be putting them in the order that you feel most confident in it, not in the order in which you learned it. If you're currently learning a skill, feel free to put in parentheses in progress. And that way they know that you may not be an expert, but you're working towards something, which is great to put. If you're going to list an OS, you better be very good at it and know all the sections of it. Some people have listed, operating systems, and then I've seen them put Windows, Mac, and Linux. That teaches me nothing unless you are an expert at all of those things. We've all kind of touched them within our time working in the industry and at school, but I want to know specifically what in those operating systems you've worked on. And that can be listed in other sections, like what type of tools and software that you've been using. So instead of putting I know Windows, maybe put I know PSExec or something like that. Anything that you do put down, they are allowed to ask you in interviews. Really, they're allowed to ask you anything in interviews, but if you don't know it and it's on your resume, you're going to look really bad. So definitely make sure you're putting stuff that you're confident in. Work experience. This is the most important part of your resume. It shows what things you actually did in the real world, and that's what really matters to recruiters. You're going to want to put words like I collaborated, contributed, demonstrated, helped, etc. And all of these things will show what types of tools, maybe languages you used it in terms of programming, software that you used, and stuff like that. And they're going to be looking for specific things that they use at their company so that you can apply the real world experience to their company. A side note here is that in any section of your resume, I don't recommend putting I was able to blah, 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 blah. We know that your resume is about you. We know that you are the person in question here, and we know that you are the one that did it. It kind of helps save some space. Every single thing on your resume should only be one line long, and that can be hard to accomplish. But if you take out the fluff and you just put really what you did, it will help and save a lot of space. All right. Activities, projects, competitions, conferences, volunteer work. Each of these can be their own section. I know me and a lot of other RIT students have a competition section in their resume because that's something that we do a lot here. So make sure you're putting that in and not just saying blue team, IRSec, I was a blue teamer at IRSec. That's not helpful. Talk about what box you were on. Talk about what you did. It's only one line, but there's a big difference between saying I blue teamed a competition and led Windows side of team blah, blah, blah. So definitely be as low as possible and as specific as possible. Yeah. And if you are doing anything in terms of activities, make sure you put a small blurb about what you did and what you contributed to the club or activity that you're doing. If I was an alumni or a recruiter and I saw RATSEC member, that tells me nothing And being a part of the club, that probably tells me you're not actually a member. You're just someone who showed up 1 to 3 times. There's a lot going on in RITSEC, and you should be able to list more things or at least describe what the meetings are like. And that brings me to my next point. What is RITSEC? What is WIC? What is Next Hop? Recruiters aren't going to know. They probably didn't go here. And if they did, we've changed names a couple times. So make sure you are elaborating on what those points are so that they can have a full understanding of how great you are and what you've done during your time here at RIT. So the next thing we're going to go over is the design of a resume. I am giving you my resume to look at and judge with all of your heart's desires. You can see my GPA. I'm no shame here. My resume is super boring. Very, very boring, but it's clean and it's easy to read. One of the things that I'd really like to point out is that I have all of my dates lined up very nicely. You should too. The thing that I do is I just tab it all the way over. I spread out the margins as wide as possible so that one sentence can go as far as possible across the page. And then with the date, I keep hitting space until the 0 goes to the next line, and then I hit the backspace once, and everything is in line on that margin. So make sure you're doing the same. Make sure everything is easy to read, and you will get a job, hopefully. Another thing here is that you can really see the difference between the work and the position. So I really wanted to show the companies that I worked at because I'm very proud of it. A lot of people will try and fit intern, the company name, and the location and the date in one line on one section. That is horrible. That is so hard to read. That's not helpful. I'm an intern. They know that. So I just put it at the bottom because the specifics of what type of intern I was is not as important. So make sure you're making everything clear to read. And if you don't know what that means, give it to someone else to review. Right after this talk, we're going to have RITSEC resume review time. So definitely review it during this talk and then kind of bring it to someone else to help look over it and make sure that they can read it. So if you want to get a little bit prettier with things, you can be like Becca and add some color. She still did a really great job. She put the dates of her work experience in a different format than mine. So I wanted to highlight that. And you can also see that the June 2020 to present has a dash in between. Some people don't understand how to do that for whatever reason. They will put like a comma, or they'll have things touch, or they won't use like the right dash. So make sure you're just doing that. These things seem really nitpicky, but they're things that recruiters look at because these are what recruiters care about and do all day. So having something clean for them to look at when they're going through 500 resumes is really going to help them out and make them like you more. Other things that Becca did was she highlighted her certification, and I thought that was a really great way to do things. And she also put out her relevant courses. So Becca has a lot of experience, but if maybe you're a freshman and you don't have all of these things to put on your resume, put your relevant courses. You've been learning. You're doing your best to get ready for the real world. Tell the recruiters about it. Show them how great you are. All right, we're gonna do some participation now, and we're gonna go over my favorite resume that I've ever seen. And we're gonna have you guys participate, and then I'm gonna answer a question that I just saw pop up in the stream after this. So there are at least 3 things wrong here. Please tell me what they are in the Twitch chat. I will wait and sip. Spelling, mentioning L in as in blue team. I didn't even see that one. You're right. Bad grammar, definitely. What is an RC3 exactly? I place first. That is something we don't want to see. Completion. is definitely wrong. All right. So you guys saw all of it and more because I stopped looking at it. Completion. This is supposed to be a competition. I do applaud this person for actually spelling out the competition. A lot of people will put IRSEC and then that's it. Recruiters don't know what that is. You need to put the incident response competition. They mentioned that they were in first place. In the whole sentence is just a repeat of the title. So completion, which was spelled wrong twice. First place, first place. This I is weirdly bolded. My team and I, we don't care about your team. Your team's not going for this job. And if they are, you want to stand out ahead of them. You want to say, I led my team, or you don't say I, but led team on Windows side to victory. Like, and first place, we've already seen it. RC3, we've seen it. This is like an example of people trying to hit a word count when it's actually a really phenomenal accomplishment that will set you apart from other candidates. Presenting it this way isn't going to help. So make sure you're really going over things. Yes, I am a roaster. That's me. All right. Someone said, question, what are your thoughts on colors / a color theme on a resume? That's a good question. I don't think you need it, but if you do want to put in the extra effort so that it pops in that resume deck, I'm all for it. I think blue is the best color. If you were to use red, that would kind of set off some alarms. One of the great things you can do, and we'll talk about this later when it comes to making a game plan, is use the colors of the company that you really want to see. If you're putting a resume into a Facebook resume bank, use the same blue that they use. Show that you are already branded for that company. That's a good question. Another question. What do you do if you feel like you have too much to put on and not enough space? I have 4 jobs that I feel are relevant, plus skills, education, etc. That is a hard thing that you will definitely see as you get older. You kind of just have to go through it and think about what job you want right now. What skills are applicable to that current job? Maybe you gain some really important skills in one job, but they just won't really add up as much in the job that you're looking forward to. So you're going to have to cut some things on your resume, but what you can do is make a website or a LinkedIn for those other things and start highlighting that stuff there. So I'll go over that in a little bit, but good question. And then someone said, do you recommend having a personal profile, describes interests and dedication, but is it worth it? I don't think it's worth the space, especially since you're the same person who said you were lacking some space. Your personal interests and dedications, they're good and they show that who you are, but I also think that kind of stuff happens when you're talking in an interview, and sometimes they'll ask you about hobbies. So if you're lacking a lot of space, I would always say leave that for the conversation later and getting to know the person. All right, coming to the game plan. Start early. I have seen so many people think they were a hot shot and for whatever reason didn't start applying to jobs until March. Recruiters start in August. You need to be starting in August, September. Start looking for things in the fall. I know there's a spring career fair, but there are way less spots available then. Even if you have a job that you already worked at and you're expecting them to come to you and say, hey, we still have a spot for you, you need to follow up with them really early in the fall. I can't stress this point enough. You need to start looking for jobs as early as possible, and then you don't have to stress about it anymore. I would say on average, it takes about a month to really find a job, and most of the time that goes into doing this is practicing for interviews. So definitely make sure that you are starting early. And pick out where you want to work. I love this. So make a list. Maybe it's where you know people have worked before, or maybe it's just things that you like. Maybe you're a Windows person, so you want to work for Microsoft. Maybe you're on Twitch all the time, so you want to work for Twitch. Make that list and start working towards going after them. Here are the participating companies, according to Michelle. As of last week, these were all the companies participating in the RIT Career Fair. If you are an upperclassman, you'll know that this is not as many companies as we usually see. They'll only be here for about 3 days, going online periodically, but there will be a lot of other companies holding different informational sessions. And what this really means for everyone is that we're going to have to work a lot harder to get our jobs. We can't just go to the career fair for a couple hours, talk to all the alumni we know, have a friend introduce us to a friend, and call it a day. You're going to have to go out and really seek out the companies that you want to work for. And that can be hard, but I'm going to teach you how to do it. So I'm going to give you some free advice in regards to picking your companies and targeting which ones you want to do. You should start working the job before you have it. This is one of the best things that you can do. If you want to work for Apple, go start a project on some Mac stuff. I don't know. You should just be showing them that you are so interested in their company and so interested in the stuff that you are going to do for them that you're doing it for yourself right now. You're already working on that skill set. You're already at level 1. You're ahead of everyone else. So definitely just start doing that. And then research the role and research the people. One of the things that I did when I was applying to MITRE, actually, for the interview that I got there, was I just went on the LinkedIn of the person who would be interviewing me. And what I saw there was that, and I saw his Twitter, and what I saw was that he had just been to a conference, and I also love conferences, and I knew he was, I knew where he went to school and scholarship for service. So I knew what our conversation would be like before I went into it, just from some quick OSINT. So you can do that. And it's not unethical in my opinion, just Googling who a person is. So make sure you are doing that. And then in terms of the role, what are they going to ask you during the interview? What different types of tools and materials will you be using on that job? You can do this by going to LinkedIn and looking at the company and looking for the job roles that you've already seen, and even looking for the role that they post for the job opening. It will show you everything that they want from you. So then once you know that, you can go out and learn it and be the best for them. Build your online presence. All right, this is a fun one. I'm going to teach you guys how to be famous in the security world, and everyone's going to come to you and want a job from you. So the security influencer checklist, you need to get your LinkedIn going, your GitHub, your Twitter. You should make a website, and most of all, you should present here at RITSec, and then you can be on the YouTube, which everyone watches all the time. So definitely sign up for a presentation. Your LinkedIn is probably the #1 place that you can get a job from, in my opinion. I have no proof or data to back that up, but I've gotten an offer or two in those DMs, and it feels like the most appropriate place for anyone to actually be asking you for any sort of like professional advice. It doesn't feel awkward going into those DMs and saying, hey, person who is an alumni who works at the company that I want to work at, can you hire me, please? Like, that's completely appropriate on LinkedIn. So go there and set up a lot of buzzwords. The recruiters who are on LinkedIn are looking for specific things. They're looking for words like security, for words like leadership, maybe some programming languages. Make sure that those are on your profile so that you show up in their searches. One of the other things that will really help you show up in their searches is doing the hashtag LinkedIn open to work. This is something that you can Google how to do. I'm pretty sure you just go to your profile and you click on, and then it will push you to the front of the line in terms of showing up. So you can take advantage of that. In that, it also asks you what job titles you want. So I have done consulting and engineering, so I put that in because that's what I want to do. Where do I want to work? DC. Pretty simple. We're learning a lot about me today, but they're going to learn a lot about you if you just do this really quick 5-minute thing, and then you'll be at the front of the line in terms of LinkedIn searches. GitHub. Your GitHub shows how much projects you're actually participating in your free time. Although the amount of repos and work is probably the most important thing, you can also make your GitHub look hella professional. Look at this Monica thing. She did so well. You can make it so pretty, and these are all open sourced because they're on GitHub. So you can also go to Monica's page and then just take this README, stick in your own name, and then you're famous too, and then you're hired too. Isn't that great? Be like Monica. Twitter. Security loves Twitter. I don't know why. People like just talking a lot and sharing. You can be one of those people. I honestly go to Twitter more for inspiration, but it is a really great way to find a job. One of the things you want to do when you are looking for a job there is you want to say you are looking for full-time in your name, because every time you tweet, they will know that you're looking for a job. I'm not doing this because I'm not fully looking, but you should do this. And it'd be really important. And they can see everything you do right in your bio when they highlight over you, because they know you're looking for a job and they want to know more about you. And something you should be doing in LinkedIn, GitHub, everything is releasing the most content possible. I want you all to release your inner Weissman. I want to see that much content coming out of you. Anything you do related to security, put it out there. That's what Twitter's for. Get out there and really show them your stuff. So post a bunch. And then once you're ready and you have your fabulous resume from today's resume review, tweet it and say, hey, I'm looking for work. You know why? Because everyone's looking to employ you. So get out there. Website. This is fun. Honestly, I had a great time making my website this summer. It took me about a week to do. I used Hugo to do mine, but you can also use Jekyll. And if you don't want to set up a website on GitHub, you can just set it up on Medium, and then you have blog posts to do. But I wanted to put up all of my talks. I don't really have any blogs because I'm not a writer at heart. I just talk to people. So set up a website. It looks cool. You can put it in your Twitter bio. And domains are really cheap. I have my name and I have securityis.life because this is all I do. And it's really fun, and just do it because it makes you look good. And sometimes that's an interview question, but more so for programmers is, what is your website? All right, virtual career fairs. These are weird. They're not as fun, but I guess they're less stressful. So you're still going to need an elevator pitch. If you don't know what an elevator pitch is, it's just a really quick intro that you say when you meet someone. You shake their hand. Just kidding. Too dirty for that. But you'll have this ready to be copied and pasted into whatever chat service the virtual career fair is using. And in it, you're just going to say, hi, my name is Shanna McHale. I'm a 4th-year computing security major here at RIT. I'm used to be president of the club RITSec, which is our computing security club here. I used to work at the MITRE Corporation and Mandiant FireEye. Some other things that I've done in my time here is I spoke at ShmooCon. In my free time, I watch Netflix and eat popcorn. And I'm really interested in your company because that is probably the most impactful thing that you'll be able to say is, why are you here today? I'm really interested in MITRE because they solve the hardest problems and do it for the right reasons, you know, stuff like that. Really, this is where the research come in and the game plan come in. Why do you want to work for that company? Tell them right there and then. Be very vulnerable with them. They'll enjoy it. They'll be excited. So have this down, ready to copy and paste it. If you get to say it out loud, that's even better because they'll hear your excitement, but have it ready. Virtual career fair tips. So you want your copied and pasted elevator pitch ready to go. You'll be able to see all the companies on a list. So make a list of the ones that you prefer and just go to them, copy and paste your elevator pitch, and have a nice day. research the companies. You'll want to be able to say, I'm interested in your software engineering role. Wear a nice shirt. So if you haven't seen me yet in the stream, I don't think you can because I'm short, but I'm wearing a blouse because I'm a lady. But I'm also wearing sweatpants because I'm a college student. And you can do that too when you're at the career fair here at RIT virtually. And keep your camera on. Keep it on, keep it about eye level so that you can look right into it. Make sure you have some lighting ready. And yeah, it just makes it more personal so they can get to know you. And then you get to the interviews. Dun, dun, dun. So you have an awesome resume. You have online presence like crazy, you have millions of followers now. You've applied to these awesome jobs and they want you too. So they're going to interview you and make sure that you're awesome as you seem, because you are. And so you get to the interview, and what are you going to do? You're going to prepare. You are going to go through each thing on your resume because that's exactly what they're going to ask you about. And you're going to prepare something for every single point on there. So you're going to, when it comes to projects that you might want to talk about, you want to be able to speak to the challenges, the mistakes, what you enjoyed, leadership, conflicts, and what you do differently. If you want more details on how to do this, I suggest cracking the coding interview. There's a whole chapter on how to do these little stories, so I would definitely look into that. Behavioral questions are the same way. They're going to ask you, can you tell me about a time that you had a conflict with a colleague or lab partner? And then you're going to go through a nugget, a situation, an action, a result, and what it says about you. So the nugget is the trailer. So let me tell you about a time that my lab partner was bullying me, and then and how we kind of came to a conclusion and ended up getting an A in the class. Let me tell you about that. And then you go into the situation, you give some background, you go into the action, what you did to make sure that the situation was fixed, the result of it, and what it says about you. Are you a leader? Do you have great character? Are you a hard worker? Are you passionate? Do you just not put up with things? Are you a passive person that just wants everyone to be happy? Who knows? They will when you tell them. What is the position? So when it comes to interviews, sometimes it can be hard because you show up and you don't really know what the questions are going to be. So you feel a little bit underprepared. So if you start studying for general security things and then it's a really software heavy position and you show up knowing like TCP and UDP, but they want you to know how to do a while loop, that's going to be an issue. So make sure you really understand the position. It's totally appropriate to ask the recruiter, what will this interview be like? What should I maybe, prep beforehand? You can send that email and they will usually give you some sort of area that you can prep. So things that I've seen people interview for are general security, networking positions, red team, you're going to go through the attack life cycle most likely. IR, you're going to want to know a lot of forensics. And then programming, you're going to have to code live in front of someone. So when it comes to actually getting questions to prepare for, you can Google them. GitHub has thousands of repositories filled with practice questions. So go out and find them. And then you know what you should do with those questions is you should copy and paste them into a Google Doc and start answering them and start saying them out loud. Make flashcards, do everything you can to make sure that during the interview, when you're a little bit stressed out, you know the stuff very hardcore. And if there's a company that you're going to that you have friends at or you know people who have interviewed there, ask them. They will tell you what the questions were like, and then you'll know exactly what to study and you can kill it. If it's a coding challenge, which is where you sit sharing a screen with someone, live coding, speaking out everything that you're thinking to solve those problems, there's ways to practice for that too. Cracking the Coding Interview is a book that people die for. Interview Bit gives you really good questions to practice with, and so does HackerRank. LeetCode is another one that I've heard is decent. These are all things that you can do to better prepare for those coding challenges, which can be a little stressful. Once you're done with the interview, they're going to say, do you have any questions for me? And even if you don't, even if it was like boring, or maybe you just like can't think right now because you had to code, oh my God, you need to ask questions and ask meaningful questions that show how passionate you are about the company, how excited you are to be speaking to someone in a position that you one day want to have. So why'd you pick this company? Why have you stayed? Those are great questions. Describe your average day. What will the role be like for you when you're there? What's your favorite project that you've worked on? Maybe you're not sure what the work is going on there. What projects have interns worked on in the past? Do interns receive any training? Maybe you're really interested in the benefits of a company. Does company allocate any hours for you to work on personal projects while you're at the company? This happens sometimes if you go to the bigger Silicon Valley companies or something. So what are they actually looking for? Your skill set's important, but if you miss a couple questions, that's totally okay. Make sure that you say, I don't know, when you don't know. That's very important. It shows that you are humble and ready. And then, but they're really looking for passion, your ability to learn, and your confidence. And of course, how are you to work with as a person? So make sure that you're really showing those things so that they want to hire you. Say thank you and follow up when you're done with the interview. You need to send an email that says, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak with you. I'm really excited at the thought of working at your company. I especially enjoyed speaking with you about Linux XYZ. So make sure you do that. And then if you don't hear from them in 2 weeks, send a follow-up email because it will really make an impact. Overall, you're going to do great. You will rock any interview that you've ever gone to. You already go to RIT, therefore you're the best. Pump up that ego. So make sure that you're ready for the career fair. Do all those things. It takes like 20 minutes to spice up a LinkedIn. Get out there, do your best. You got it. The end.
So yeah, everyone, thank you, Shannon, for presenting. That was awesome.
Thank you.
And before we go into our kind of resume review mixed.
Thanks, John. Cool. So I'm going to be getting you guys through a little mini boot camp for career fair prep. Why am I doing this? Hi, my name's Shannon McHale. I used to be the president of RITSec. I've worked at the MITRE Corporation and Mandiant, which are pretty awesome companies. I'll be employed in the future. Therefore, I'm qualified to do this. I'm one of the more professional people in RITSec, at least I like to think. I've given a talk at ShmooCon that was really all about clubs, but it also had a lot to do with becoming a professional and making sure that employees were speaking with students and how they should interact. So I've been doing this stuff for a while, especially through Women in Computing and WESIS. So I'm here to teach you how to adult the way that I do. In today's learning, we will be going over resumes, your online presence, game plans for the career fair and for your job search, virtual career fair here at RIT, and interviews. So get ready, get hype, yeet. First, we're going to start out with the resumes. Resumes have a pretty basic structure overall that everyone should be following. You have your objective, you list your education, you list your work experience or your skills next, but make sure those are both high because that's what employers will really be looking for. And then you go over activities, projects, competitions, conferences, or volunteer work, depending on what you want to highlight the most. The objective is pretty simple, but a lot of people tend to overdo it. I think that it is a great way to just tell employees that you are seeking an internship or full-time, the area that you're looking to work in, and when you want to start. It should be one sentence long. You don't want it to take up a lot of your resume, and you don't really need fluff. Sometimes a lot of people will start saying really enthusiastic, passionate lover of security that's going to be your best intern ever and this and that, but that's not needed. It's really just there to tell them when you're going to work, and then the rest of the resume will show how fantastic you are. So your education should be next. It's pretty simple. You just put Rochester Institute of Technology, your degree and your grad year, your minor, your GPA, even if it's bad. A lot of recruiters will just throw away a resume if it doesn't have a GPA because they think, oh, it must be really, really bad if it's not going to be on there. So just put it on there because even if it is bad, they like to know, they like honesty. And then certifications can also be put here or in your skill set section. Your skills should be listed in order of what you know the most. So if you're going to list your programming languages, instead of putting them in the order that you learned it here at RIT, put it in the order that you are most confident answer questions on this. If you list an OS, you better know it pretty well. I've seen people list Windows, Mac, Linux. That doesn't really tell a recruiter how much you actually know. And it doesn't really tell them what experience you have with it. So try and be a little bit more specific about what area of those OSs you've worked with by listing the devices or the software that you've been doing. So for Windows, instead of just saying like Windows, say like PSExec or WinRM. And then assume you will be asked questions about this topic. Anything on your resume is fair game for a interviewer to ask you. Work experience. So you're going to want to say that you collaborated, contributed, demonstrated, helped, whatever buzzwords you need for your work experience, and list the things you did this summer. This is probably the most important section of your resume. It's really going to tell them what tools, languages, software you have experience in the real world with that can be directly applied to whatever job that you're applying to. Something to note with this and the other section of your resume is that you don't need to say, I was doing blah, blah, blah. The resume is about you, and we already know that you're the person in question here. So adding things like I was able to, instead of just saying like contributed, it saves a lot of space, and it also just sounds more professional.
Shannon.
What?
Can we pause for a moment? I need to restart the stream. It just kind of like stopped.
I see it lagging at education.
Yeah, give me a second. I'm restarting it now.
Come on, John.
All right, give me 1 second. Don't worry, the recording will be crystal clear.
You'll just cut it in the recording?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start back at education.